it is the only action which does not create a karma, which does not bind us to further physical reality, is an action in which we have no attachment to the result. Now, this is very difficult because usually it's the desire for the result which generates the action. Usually we do things because we want the result. So this is a wholly different frame of mind which is required from us, the ability to be able to act without desiring any particular result. Okay, so we have discussed here the mechanical circle of our tendencies, how we tend to be controlled and become robot-like in our functioning because these tendencies are functioning by themselves. These are not us. We are not these feelings. We are not these desires. These are like waves on the ocean. We are the ocean, and these are temporary formations of our consciousness which have nothing to do with our consciousness as it is in its pure form. But we get totally identified with these waves, and when we do, then we lose our center. And we are given here ways of handling this, and they are meditation, catharsis, analysis, discipline, discrimination, willpower, devotion towards God, and offering the results of our actions to God. Now I'd like to discuss a second subject, and that is the nature of the physical universe. We said that the spiritual self has three qualities: Sat, Chit, Ananda. It is the quality of eternal existence, of unlimited omnipresent consciousness, and uninterrupted bliss. This is our real nature. But of course we don't experience this nature. What we experience is the qualities of the physical universe. And these are three qualities which are called the three gunas. And what are the gunas? It's G-U-N-A-S. Three gunas are the three types of energy, or the three states of energy in the universe. The first state is called tamas. And this is a state of inertia, in which there is a lack of energy. You can look at the second page that you have here, the analysis of the three qualities, or the gunas. So tamas is a lack of energy, it's inertia, it's ignorance, it's darkness, it's the lack of self-confidence, a lack of effort in life, and it can be associated with the psychological state of delusion or of depression. It's a state in which matter is heavier than energy and consciousness, that the material vibration in this object or being or person, the material vibration is greater than the energy or the consciousness in this person. The second quality is called rajas. Now, rajas is the quality of being very active, perhaps hyperactive, aggressively active. It's non-harmonious action. It includes ambition. It becomes violence. It's uncontrolled energy or thought. It's a state of stimulation, a state of being unable to relax, a state of effort, but effort attached to the result of the effort. And it can be described with a state of pride or nervosity. In this case, energy is greater than matter and consciousness. In this case, there is energy, plenty of energy, but there is not the awareness necessary to direct this energy harmoniously and in a positive and creative direction. It's nervous energy. It's tension. This person has difficulty, whereas a tamasic person has difficulty getting going and waking up. The rajasic person has difficulty stopping or sleeping or relaxing. Then we have sattva, the quality of sattva, which is the quality of harmony, equilibrium, balance, peace, contentment, awareness, consciousness, love. It's a peacefully, harmoniously flowing energy. Now most people some people are totally tamasic, and others are totally rajasic. Others oscillate between tamas and rajas. That is, they oscillate between being totally down at certain times and then totally up and uncontrollable at other times. The extreme of this, of course, is manic depression, whereas the person has periods of his life in which he believes he's Superman and you can't stop him. He's continually running around doing things. And then he goes into depression and nothing has anything meaning and he just wants to sleep. Okay? But all of us, to some degree, have these qualities of tamas, no energy, no desire to do anything, no motivation, and then rajas, super motivation, just really but attached to the results and can't rest, can't sleep, overexcited about what we're going to do. And of course, at times we may experience sattva. Now, do not confuse sattva with tamas. Some people think they're sattvic, but they're actually tamasic. That is, inactivity is not sattva. Sattva is being able to be in activity, but to be harmonious. So don't confuse activity with rajas. The whole thing is what is going on in my mind. I can be in rajasic activity, that is, in which I'm very focused on the results and anxious, have anxiety, or I can be in sattvic activity, moving even more quickly and more effectively than the rajasic person, but the mind is at peace and the movements are harmonious. So it has nothing to do with activity or inactivity. I can be in inactivity and the mind be totally rajasic. The mind is just racing, but the body is sitting there. I don't do anything with my life, but I'm totally in anxiety, you see. So it's obvious that in yoga we seek to create sattva. It's obvious that we want to employ any kind of techniques or ways of thinking which will allow us to free ourselves from tamas and from rajas and to arrive at a sattvic state. Now there's a fourth state, which is called turiya, which is beyond these three qualities, in which our consciousness is liberated even from sattva. Because one can have attachment even to sattva. One can be attached to being peaceful, to be attached to having energy. Whereas our real self, our true self, is none of these. These gunas exist in the bodies, but not in ourself. They exist in the physical body, in the energy body, in the emotional body, in the mental body, even in the causal body. But I am not these. I am not these tendencies. I am the consciousness which is behind them. So the ultimate state that the yogi is seeking is liberation from attachment to any of these qualities. These qualities continue to exist even after enlightenment, but the consciousness ceases to be attached and identified with them. This is the difference between the enlightened person and us. It's not that the enlightened person is always in a state of sattva, but he is disidentified from these three states. So, we could consider the example of wood. Wood can be considered tamasic. Doesn't give off any energy. And then we can consider a piece of wood on fire would be rajasic because it's out of control. It's got a lot of energy, but it's uncontrolled energy. And afterwards, what is left is the coal. And the coal has plenty of energy, but it's controlled. You can cook much easier on a coal than you can on a live fire. And this is the way it usually happens. Usually we go from a tamasic state to a rajasic state, and then from a rajasic to a sattvic state in our evolutionary process. So we're in a state of inertia, not doing much with our lives. Then we become very active, and then gradually we relax, and we have energy, but it's a peaceful and creative kind of energy. So you are asked this week to observe yourselves. Please look at this chart that you have here. And we have possible categories. And I would like you to evaluate separately your thoughts, your words, and your activity. Because someone can be tamasic in their activity and rajasic in their words, or tamasic in their thoughts, you see. So you will put 3 lines there, vertical lines between the thoughts and words and activity. And so there are 6 possible categories here. One is that the first, I'm basically tamasic with a little rajas and sattva. Secondly, I am basically rajasic with little tamas and sattva. That is, what characterizes me as rajas. But that separately, I want to evaluate your thoughts, your words, and your activity. I am basically rajasic and tamasic, oscillating throughout the day with a little sattva. I am basically rajasic and then sometimes sattvic with a little tamas. The 5th possibility, I am basically tamasic and sattvic with a little rajas. And the 6th possibility, I'm basically sattvic with a little bit of tamas and rajas. Okay? So I'd like you to observe yourselves this week and see your thoughts, your words, and your activity, in which categories do they fall? Try to analyze your thoughts. Are they basically tamasic, or rajasic, or sattvic? Or some combination of these. Okay? So look at yourselves this week and try to evaluate this. Now, what can we do in order to create a more sattvic body, mind, emotions, being? There are 3 things we need to consider. The first is the inputs, what comes into us. The second is what goes out of us. And the third is what we do with what is inside of us. Okay, these are energies. Vibrations or energies are coming into us. Vibrations and energies are going out of us. And there's various processes going on within us. So what is it that we take in from the environment? And everything in the environment has a quality, or has a combination of quality. Well, the first and most important that we take in is food. So the food that we take is going to affect our energy level. If we're taking in dead food, food cooked for a day or 2 ago, food in cans, food in packages, that is food without vital energy, then that's going to create a tamasic body and mind. So the deader my food, the deader my mind, the deader my energy body. If I'm taking rajasic foods, that is meat, and to some degree chicken and fish, or foods which are very spicy or pungent or burning or acid, then that's going to create tension. It's going to create a hyperactivity in my nervous system and in my mind. So these foods are going to create tension, overactivity, especially meat, because just before the animal is killed, it knows it's going to be killed, and it excretes a great deal of adrenaline into its system. And then we take this adrenaline, we take this violence into our bodies. So every time we eat, these beings which experience fear just before they die, we take in their fear. We take in the violence of that act. And that affects our energy level and affects our mind.